Riots break out at California's Berkeley University over a speech against sanctuary campuses meant to protect undocumented immigrant students.
I'd like you to stay strong, stay steady and fast.
Resist.
New Yorkers voice support for a fictional country they believe is under threat from Russia as we test how rife anti-Russian sentiment is in America. A state-owned Swedish company wants to replace the country's language with a new one more inclusive for migrants, sparking angry exchanges. And here on RT International, we hear from both camps.
We've got to support people when they're here, give them the tools and give them the education to learn the culture, to learn the values, to learn the customs of a country.
If you want to come and live in Sweden, then you should learn the language. It's not for me to pay.
It is right now midday in Moscow. Thanks for joining us on RT International. A protest has turned violent at the University of California, Berkeley, where the editor of the conservative news website Breitbart and Trump supporter Milo Yiannopoulos was due to give a speech against sanctuary campuses for undocumented students. Activists smashed windows, including a building where Yiannopoulos was supposed to give a speech. The rioters, some masked in black, used baseball bats and stones to vandalize property. Police declared a lockdown across the campus and used rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse the crowds. Twitter users are posting pictures of Trump supporters being beaten and attacked with pepper spray.
Protesters are doing the same, and props to them for the ones who are doing it non-violently, but I think that's a very rare thing indeed.
Are you surprised?
Now, Berkeley riots are part of a wider California protest against Trump's recent executive order about temporary travel restrictions against Muslims and his proclaimed fight against illegal immigration. California legislators are now pushing for a bill that some think would turn their state into a haven for undocumented migrants. And documentary filmmaker Mike Cernovich told us who he thinks is to blame for the unrest.
The American media is creating hysteria amongst the population, amongst the people, to try to incite violence and to incite riots in order to get more ratings and to sell more commercials. So what happened tonight has been part of a broader pattern of the media attempting to incite violence against the people and against each other. The students here who are very hysterical, a lot of them actually aren't really students. A lot of them are just bad people. They're a criminal element who found out that this is a great way to commit crimes without any kind of punishment. The mayor of Berkeley encouraged the riots to happen. He posted on his Twitter account, "This is what happens when you try to spread hate speech." You don't hear the media saying that people need to become united. They're not blaming the Democrats for this. They're not saying that Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Tim Kaine should renounce this. There's clearly a double standard, and again, it's because I sincerely believe the American media wants to encourage this type of violence.
Well, another thing the media likes to encourage, that of the image of Russia as a threat. Caleb Mopand went onto the streets of New York to find out just how rife anti-Russian sentiment is these days.
Once again, American politicians are playing up the idea of a supposed Russian threat. David Petraeus is now lending his voice to the never-ending chorus of Russophobia.
The international order that America created is now under unprecedented threat from multiple directions. Iran, Russia, and China now working to establish a kind of sphere of influence over their respective near abroads.
With Russia being accused of threatening so many countries, with so little evidence provided for any of these allegations, why not ask about one more?
We decided to ask people what their opinion was about Russia's aggression against a fictional country we invented called Kyrgyzstan.
Russia's been described as like aggressive and such in the news. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Russia is aggressive.
Now, lately, there's been some talk of their aggression against Kyrgyzstan. Have you heard this latest thing?
Yes, I have.
Vaguely, yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Sure.
Tell us about it.
I'm going to take a pass. Sorry. No, not that much.
I'm not aware of any aggression against. Which country was that?
Kyrgyzstan.
What country is that? Nice try.
Russia's known for that, and I think they're trying to adopt some of their old-style tactics of trying to conquer more territory.
Well, all I know, look, it's what they tried in Georgia. It's what they're doing in the Ukraine. It's just a pattern.
We actually have this hashtag for, that's the capital. And so would you mind holding that?
Sure.
And can you, say your message for the people there again?
Yeah, I'd like you to stay strong, stay steady and fast, and don't allow anybody to intimidate you.
Just never give up hope. It may not be the USA who comes to lend you a hand, but there's somebody out there who will. There are very many other moral countries.
If you had a message for the people that are now facing this Russian aggression, what would you tell them?
Resist. Try to get the Americans involved, although with Trump it's going to be unlikely. We're in for a nightmare.
The anti-Russian tone of American media is relentless. It seems some Americans will buy anything that fits the narrative, but others simply don't accept it. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Such support for a fictional country really highlights how we should always question more. You are watching RT International. Respectful relations between the new U.S. administration and the media have ended almost before they began. That's according to Vice President Mike Pence. A guy in HGCAN looking into the negative and at times aggressive anti-Trump coverage.
What we've got to do is fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets.
It's getting hot and heavy in Washington, D.C., with accusations and insults flying in all directions. One battleground, Capitol Hill.
I object to the senator disparaging a fellow member of the committee here in his absence.
He personally went after me. He personally impugned my integrity. You didn't object then, did you?
You can speak to it, but I think that we'd be better off if we just let it go.
The confirmation process of Trump's nominees for various top jobs has been as messy as you can imagine.
I'm very disappointed in this type of crap. I mean, my gosh, there's no excuse for it. Some of this is because they just don't like the president. I think they ought to stop posturing and acting like idiots.
We are only 1 month into 2017, and today we have another closed rule, or as I call them now, Putin rules. It's your way or the highway.
Whether one agrees with him or not, Trump's presidency has rattled the Washington establishment. Another flashpoint is between the White House and the media.
We have seen so many lies and conspiracy theories repeated by the President of the United States.
He has nothing but disdain for the rule of law and the Constitution.
This is one of the most radical inaugural speeches we've ever heard.
The disdain has been mutual.
You know, I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth.
Some members of the media were engaged in deliberately false reporting.
CNN, you are fake news.
This kind of dishonesty in the media, the challenging that bringing about our nation together is making it more difficult.
We have two parties in this country right now, pro-Trump and anti-Trump. And for the most part, the media are anti-Trump. It's that simple. It's not ideology, it's not platform, it is purely personal. What this president has done, he took a Twitter account, bypassed mainstream media. These news titans are now standing in the queue, waiting with the rest of us peasants to find out what's going on. I mean, he has just slapped this group because of, frankly, and I'm not saying this is true or warranted, but he's had it with them.
Word is out that the White House decided not to send its representatives onto CNN shows. The fight is on, but the rules are unclear. In Washington, I'm Ganesh Chekyan, RT.
Well, Donald Trump is not the only U.S. president to provoke so much negative reaction. Anissa Nawe takes a retrospective look.
I'm going to say something about Trump, and most of you will put me in a box of pro or anti. I dare you not to. But first, listen to this.
My dad passed away because we didn't have any medicine back then in Yemen because of the siege.
Sorry.
And my mom is now recently living in a destroyed house because of the airstrikes. and she wasn't able to come to the United States because of this decision. What could you help us to ensure that more families are not torn apart?
Your family is suffering because our president is reckless, and his administration is incompetent.
You couldn't have put it better. It was our reckless president who supplied the Saudis with illegal cluster bombs and fighter jets and watched allies bomb the hell out of Yemen. It was our reckless president who bombed Iraq and Libya. Syria doesn't even cover our list of countries we have torn apart and didn't give a about people or where they would go when we destroy their countries. Our presidents are reckless. And now there's another one. You can hate Trump, you can love Trump, I don't care, it's fine with me. But don't you dare pretend that American presidents aren't reckless.
Meanwhile, the row over Donald Trump's travel restrictions spilled across the Atlantic, with members of the European Parliament getting embroiled in a heated debate on the issue.
I'm sure that it's a great shock to you to see that a genuinely elected Democrat is doing what he was put in to do.
No, it is not because he is elected that he can go against human values and the values of the United States of America. It's about, fueling populism and nationalism for the moment, what the Trump administration is doing.
Every time you dismiss them as racist or populists, this simply demonstrates an inability to offer a credible alternative.
A travel ban can maybe give a temporary illusion of addressing the issue, but it can only create more frustration and anger. We need cooperation.
Trump is motivated by protecting the United States of America from Islamic terrorism, whereas what has happened in this room and in governments around Europe is you have welcomed these people into your own homes.
And while Nigel Farage was speaking in support of Donald Trump, another British MEP was holding a piece of paper with the words "he's lying to you" behind him. Seb Dance later justified the move due to, quote, the lack of challenge to populism. He was approached twice with requests to put the sign down, but still managed to keep it up until the end of Farage's speech. Now, the European Council President Donald Tusk has gone a step further and pushed back against Donald Trump, branding his administration, quote, an existential threat to the bloc, along with Russia, China, and, finally, radical Islam. Our correspondents gauge reaction on the streets of London and Paris.
Which of these countries do you think are a threat to Europe?
Russia.
To Europe, so not the United Kingdom.
To Europe, yes.
To Europe as a whole. You could say the United States to Europe at the moment.
Well, what do you think about Donald Tusk saying that the U.S. is now basically, along with Russia, China, and radical Islam, in terms of threats to the European Union?
It was always assumed that the United States would be very much on the side of Europe as it has been through NATO and the rest of it. So, yes, it is surprising.
I don't like Trump, but I don't think the United States is a threat. He's a little bit crazy, so to speak. He's not well behaved.
Seeing the news lately, I think everybody's overreacting a little bit. I think the biggest threat for Europe is Europe itself.
Well, my colleague Charlotte Dubensky is in Paris, and she also went to find out what people make of Tusk's message. We can't deny that what she found came as a bit of a surprise.
In fact, the sentiment here in Paris, France, is strikingly different to that in London. With Donald Trump in the White House, Washington, it seems, is falling out of favour with folk here in Europe, and they are becoming increasingly more wary of the Trump administration. But don't just take my word for it.
I think it's the United States, of course.
Why America?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump?
Because you don't know how he wants to manage his politics.
Probably Russia. There.
Anything else?
Well, maybe the U.S. right now, since Trump.
Since Trump, right. Oh, he definitely is a threat.
Yeah.
Because of all the things that he says. And I don't know how he wants to make them true, but I don't know, he'll figure out a way.
Now that Donald Trump is in charge, maybe it could be a big threat.
This is, of course, not a scientific poll, but you can't ignore the unity and strength of opinions of all the people we questioned here. Now, it seems that while conflict is back in vogue in Europe, with Europeans in France and across other countries in continental Europe looking across the Atlantic with some caution, some skepticism, it seems across the English Channel, Brits are leaning more towards the opinion that the threat to the EU lies within the EU's own borders.
A state-owned company in Sweden's trying to create a new reality, launching a campaign to change the country's language so that migrants don't feel excluded. The new Swedish vocabulary would mix accents and dialects currently spoken within the country.
Vi är Sverige.
Och så här låter vi.
Kompetens sitter inte i uttalet. Vi är Sverige.
The new Swedish language has already been picked up by the Stockholm University Library and the country's Scouts organisation. However, it is not winning over everyone in society. My colleague Nadira Tudor discussed the matter with two guests, John Gaunt and Mohammed Shafiq.
Well, I think it's important when we get people coming into our countries that they learn the language of that country. So if you're in the United Kingdom, English is absolutely essential. And if you're in Sweden or France or whichever country, you've got to learn the language. If you want to get on, if you want to integrate, and you want to play a full part in national life and progress yourself in your career and your family, help with school homework, all these issues are very, very important, and learning the language is absolutely essential.
This is going down terribly with the people of Sweden, and rightly so. Any immigrant who wants to come into the country should be able to read, write, as I say, and speak that language within 2 years. Otherwise, we should boot them out straight away. But to actually bend over backwards and say, we'll change our language for these people to fit in, I'll tell you what, I'd rather they actually did fit in. I'd rather they actually understood the customs of Sweden and the traditions, because we've had some terrible problems in Sweden and in Denmark and in Germany ever since Angela Merkel let in 1.2 million people who were alien and had an alien culture to the people of those countries. No, they should fit in. They should fit in or ship out, and Sweden should be ashamed of themselves changing their language.
You know, the majority are not happy that the language is being changed in order for those refugees to learn it.
We've got to support people when they're here, give them the tools and give them the education to learn the culture, to learn the values, to learn the customs of a country.
Why should the settled community pay? You want to come and live in Britain, you want to come and live in the USA, you want to come and live in Sweden, then you should learn the language. It's not for me to pay, just like it's not for me to pay for translators. You obviously want to come, the people who want to come, the migrants, they obviously want to live in a better country than the hellhole they're escaping from, so they can pay their own way. I don't see why we should pay for it.
Investing in them, helping them learn the English, learn the culture, learn the values, I think benefits the whole nation later on when they work and contribute to the society.
But that isn't what the Swedish government are suggesting, or this university. What they're suggesting is change their culture, the Swedish culture. What they're suggesting is change the Swedish language. No, no, no. These people, and most of them are economic migrants anyway, they're coming to better themselves. So if they're coming to better themselves, they should fit in. No bending, no messing, no paying by the indigenous population.
This is RT International. Lots of stories still to come your way today, including Vladimir Putin arriving in Hungary in just a couple of hours, his first international trip of the year. What's the plan for Putin and his Hungarian counterpart? We'll tell you in a moment.
See on American mainstream media.
You won't hear it anywhere else. This story was almost completely left out of the Western mainstream press.
You won't see it anywhere else.
This is not talked about on CNN because it's not allowed.
You won't see it anywhere else.
Things you'll hear on Crosstalk.
Erdogan is seeking to establish a tough dictatorship model in the country. Just like in the past, only consolidation among our society can help us defeat fascism. We're certain that it is feasible. It will help us protect Turkish society, not just Kurds.
20 past here in Moscow. The possible agenda of the upcoming meeting between Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban has become a source of speculation for the media as Russia's leader makes his first foreign visit of the year straight to Hungary. Now, Hungary's Prime Minister has long been lambasted by top EU figures for his policy over the migrant crisis. However, some of them are now repositioning themselves. Peter Oliver filed this report from Budapest.
The dictator is coming.
Dictator is a nickname that's stuck for Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who's been at odds with Europe for years.
The most vocal agent of this dismantling of Europe is the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban.
Hungary's Prime Minister attempted to deflect the criticism with legal and technical arguments, but failed to convince MEPs that he was respecting fundamental democratic values.
No, Mr. Orban, it's not against Hungary. What we are defending here is Hungarian democracy.
However, what Orban was slammed for years ago has become a key election issue in the Netherlands, France and in Germany as they go to the polls in 2017. Open borders and refugee policy. We've even seen German Chancellor Angela Merkel say her policy towards refugees was a mistake and even move to deport some of those who came to the country as migrants.
If I could, I would go back many years in order to prepare better, together with the entire government and those responsible for the situation that caught us rather unprepared at the end of summer 2015.
Denmark brought in border controls, and in the Netherlands, Prime Minister Mark Rutte has been forced to adopt a more Orban-like approach to avoid being dropped by the electorate at this year's poll.
People who refuse to adapt and criticise our values should behave normally or go away.
The reason that politicians like Rutte are having to change tack is that they see those who were denigrated previously for sharing similar ideas to Viktor Orban picking up votes in Germany's local elections and even edging close to some of the major power positions across Europe. So those that had been branded populist, extremist, even neo-Nazi by the media and Eurocrats have risen in the polls. That's undeniable. And the one thing that politicians like Trump, Le Pen and Orban have in common is that they have put their national self-interest first. And as Viktor Orban put it, the West is undergoing a change of character. Peter Oliver, RT in Budapest.
The biggest street protests in over 25 years have hit the Romanian capital. Roughly 200,000 people taking to the streets voicing against corruption. Dozens of people are said to have been arrested after demonstrations turned to violent clashes with police. Protests were triggered by the government passing a new law that decriminalizes offences, including theft of public funds when the amount is less than $48,000. The move is seen by many as a loophole for corrupt politicians to dodge justice, as well as the biggest retreat on reform since the country joined the European Union in 2007. After the measure easing misconduct was adopted, the nation's president, opposed to the move, dubbed it, quote, a day of mourning for the rule of law. Yet it comes just 3 months after the U.S. ambassador to Romania said that the region has become a model for democracy and open governance, as well as for the fight against corruption. RT has spoken exclusively to Russian tennis player Maria Sharapova about her doping scandal. The five-time Grand Slam champion was suspended from sport for 15 months last year after failing a drugs test. She's now set to make her comeback in April.
Kind of amazing when you think at the time going by and you think 15 months is a long time, but here we are just a couple of months away from my comeback, and it feels like I had a simple life in a way, which after traveling for so many years and playing so many tournaments, it was a nice break for me personally.
You've had a career Grand Slam. You were the flag bearer for Russia at the Olympics, huge. You were also a torch bearer at the Winter Olympics. Sochi, you've done a lot of things. What would you say is your greatest moment in your career?
I think being able to be a part of all these things as an athlete, you never quite know where the road takes you and how, I guess not even just from accomplishments, but the challenges that you face in a career. If you think about the amount of tournaments that we play, if you think about the amount of the Olympics, even though I've only played one, but a tennis player's career can be so long and you go through so much. And I've been so fortunate to experience a lot of things in my life. Victories from a young age, tough matches which I didn't pull through and I ended up losing, that cost me, mentally as well.
Do you remember a moment where you thought, I'm going to think about my future after tennis?
I always felt very driven to try things, to experience things, to work. I love to work. I think it's most of the time it's not even about the money. It's about trying to figure out ways and exploring. It's meeting people. It's seeing a concept and bringing it to life. That's very fascinating to me. So I think that passion for trying new things, for not being afraid to fail, has really helped me, and it's gotten me off the couch.
Now, you've had so many opportunities to endure and learn things about yourself. What would you say to 16-year-old Maria Sharapova?
What I would say is there's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot to look forward to, and no matter if you succeed or don't at something that you want to, if you keep working at it, you're going to be successful.
More news to come here on RT International in half an hour's time, but next, Worlds Apart.